Alrighty, no Artie. They've got some big tank destroyers, which is usually good for your team. It's only one light tank, which is also good. So when there's only one light tank, I do the double loop, or I do the double spot where I'll come down this 6 line, right? And I'll come through this area right here in order to spot down this 6 line, and then I'll just basically drive up this road to spot out here. And depending on what I spot, I can also then go and do the 9 line spot as well. That's generally what I find to be best when there's a single scout option, because that both tells you what they're sending down here, and if your guys start setting up by driving across here, they can get some free shots out down there as well. Doesn't look like you have a whole lot going city. I see a lot of mediums go city on these maps. I don't quite understand it. It doesn't seem like a very good thing to do, but that's what people do. And so the problem with doing what you did was that by going out here, you can potentially get the field spot, but you won't really know what's up here, and that creates problems for you, because these guys down here, depending on what they can do, they can light you or they can shoot you, depending on what you're doing. And the problem is that your guys didn't get out here. Wait, sorry, I had to sneeze. Your guys didn't really get out here with, any sort of alacrity. This FCM got out here basically at the same time as the IS-6, and the IS-6 is a much slower tank, right? So none of those guys actually got any shots on those dudes over there. But at least the IS-6 is out here. He actually presents quite a challenge for a lot of these guys, but you don't know anything that's in the back, which is a little bit of a problem, because you have no real sustained intel. You know that there are T-30s in town, ISU's in town, and SU is in town, and the Tortoise is in town. So you know that those guys aren't back there. And you're better off actually getting shots down here at these guys, if not at this Comet. You can also run the 0 line here. This is not a very good position to be in. See, this is the problem with the people who play out here. When people don't play this south side of this E line, like where that FCM was, that's just a really bad position. You never really want to be in that position, especially if there's already, but even if there's not, just way too easy to smoke you. If they control the 0 line, they smoke you. If they control the middle, they smoke you. If they have arty, they smoke you. You always want to be up, sort of like this IS-6 has the right idea in terms of being up here, but like this JP still has yet to get a shot. This SU still has yet to get a shot. The FCM probably really didn't do any damage at all, right? And so the IS-6 is basically out here on an island. And eventually they're going to come up on this 0 line and get behind you as well. You should have tried to take that shot anyways. Driving out here is not necessarily a good idea. You can, I guess that works, but you can actually kill that guy from over on the 0 line side from where he's at. You do need to help out your IS-6 here, though. Don't worry about that guy. Don't even worry about that guy. I mean, the Comet's one shot. Because once your IS-6 dies, then you don't have anything there. Man, look, the JP's coming forward. He's like, oh, now maybe I'll get involved. My teammates in front of me are almost all dead now, so I can start moving. Yeah, these aren't exceptionally great trades that you're doing right now, just because it's 1 for 1, and you don't have a health or a gun advantage here, so... But see how your JP, you just YOLO'd in there now? So now is when you should poke, right? You can also still get shots down here at where this KB4 is at. And you know that their Panther is back here someplace as well. So you're more concerned about getting shot by these guys down here, but you can shoot them in the side, which is the brilliant part of this road. So if you control here, then you can get all sorts of shots, right? If you control down there, you can get shots up here. If you control up here, you can get shots down there. People don't do it nearly enough. I would move more forward here. Like, you can move between your shots. Your reload isn't that short. Tortoise. You had a little window where you could have shot the tortoise, but okay. The panther is still out here in the field, but that's a little bit less of a concern. If you guys can win in here, then that'll be fantastic. You can pretty much ignore him. You can go around through the flank through the back. You can push through this front. You want to do anything, pretty much. I don't think that panther's going to do a whole lot. Like, what you're really concerned about is these guys right here dying. These guys, these tank destroyers that you had in the field, they're just not super awesome. But even not being super awesome, they're 2v1 against that panther. And what you want to do is you want to come all the way around through this K line over here, because that's what's going to allow you to shoot down here. Just being a little bit too slow about this. I wouldn't even worry about that guy at all. He's not a threat to your team. It's always about identifying who's going to be a problem for your team. That KV3 that's driving himself into the wall, right, in the middle of this lane where your team isn't anywhere even near him, not a problem for your team. And then now you're going back. Yeah. Again, this is a guy that you could probably just leave there. Like, I don't think you made the difference in that fight. But see how they're starting to encapsulate your team over here? Oh, well, at least that IS got that tortoise though. That's good. You can wait for the Oho to fire and then just get to his side. Because the KV3 isn't anywhere near him. I think he just fired. You can shoot side turret, don't shoot the front. No, don't shoot the shoulder. You want to shoot the side. No, just drive up. Just drive up next to him and shoot him in the side. The Japanese tanks are really weak on the side. And then just push this guy. Just push this guy. No, straight into him. Straight into him. Straight into him. You're the only one that can actually take a hit. This KV3 is out of the game. Straight into him. Too much delay. Push him, push him, push him, push him. Yay, okay. And then what you probably want to do is come around over on this side so that you can use this fountain as a guard. Because you basically just want to keep your distance here. You're getting too close. Like, this is, you want to be able to do a distance play against this guy. Yeah, this is not working to your advantage. I mean, he might be a bot, but again, you're not using your tools to your advantage here. And you don't need to drive all the way around. You literally just need to drive over here by this on the other side of this fountain, and you could shoot him. And then if you drive on this side again, remember you just need to come around all the way over here and you can actually shoot through some bushes over here. You can shoot through right here at him. See how you've got shots on his side. You could theoretically shoot at him from back there even. You're basically taking the play that, oh, we can hope that he doesn't get unstuck. Lol. Yeah. Again, whenever you're in a light tank up against a heavy tank, in any situation, it's always to your advantage to just keep your distance. Just keep your distance. You can outspot him. You can you've got good enough camo that from most ranges you can shoot him without him even seeing you. Okay, and the other thing. So in this particular case, you shouldn't even shoot at that guy. Because the cap has gone. You just need to survive till the end of the game. The only way that he can win there is if he destroys you. So if you just don't get lit there, so if you just like back up a little bit, then he doesn't. Well, from that range, he might spot you. But there are a number of mistakes. So when we look at this, the biggest problem was coming out here was fine. You need to recognize that your team wasn't playing very proficiently. The IS-6 played pretty well, but everyone else played this pretty horribly. The FCM played it horribly, the JP played it horribly, and the SU-152 played it horribly. So you weren't really going to get a whole lot of support out there. Recognize when you can help the IS-6 and when you can't. There were times when you were trading 1-for-1 for no reason at all. When they outnumber you, you don't want to give them health. Right? Even if it's like, oh, but it was an even trade. But yeah, but then your side is that much closer to being pushed. And then when they do start to push your guys, that's when you need to utilize your health a little bit. And then over here, I just thought that you were just you had too much indecision. You were like driving back and forth. Really, what you need to do, and this is what you should do with every tank, not just light tanks, but every tank, is look at what your team is doing on the map and going, okay, I need to find a way to keep these guys alive over here, right? You had most of your team over here. They were mostly still alive on this 3 line. You need to try to figure out a way to keep them alive somehow. But like you could have completely ignored that KV-3. You could have completely ignored that Panther in the field. Come around behind these guys, whether it's over here. Force them to turn around and deal with you, and then you just run away if they charge you, and if they don't, then you get to soak up the free damage. And it's the same thing here. On this corner here, when you still had 2 one-shot guys alive against their 4502A, right? You drove all the way around over here. By the time you did that, both of your guys were dead. All you had to do was just drive straight in. You're the only one with enough health to take a hit there, right? So you just got to drive straight in there. That is 3 guns on 1, right? But the fact that you drove all the way around really cost you, and that hurt your team a lot. And then again, when it's just 1v1 or 1v2, whatever you want to call it, at the end there, or 2v1 against the KV-3, you had plenty of opportunities to shoot that guy. You could shoot him from behind the fountain. You could shoot him from over here. You could shoot him through the bush over here, right? So get used to playing the light tank to its advantages, and its advantages are, hey, I can outspot you. I can use this bush to spot you, then back up and then shoot you through that same bush. I can shoot you out in the open if I'm far enough away. Use those strengths to your advantages, and you'll be able to clean that guy up pretty easily, because he was basically just stuck in there for most of the game. And then at the very end, just recognize that if you're capping out and you're the last one there, you just have to not get killed, right? If the bar is full, right, and you got the little exclamation point at the base captured by allies, the only way that you can lose is if you get destroyed, right? So keep that in mind. So if we look at stats, well, that JP ended up doing 3k damage. Go him. 0 line camp, best camp. Yeah, not bad. Just again, I think the biggest problem there was just target selection of where you should apply your pressure. GG though, nice try. Alright, so up next is Dark Knight on Sacred Valley. Thanks for the resubs, guys. Otto Von Salty Pants and Z Taylor. Sheep Hype. Alrighty, so this is another no RD game. What do you know? Pretty much the same comp. You've got a little bit more mediums, but I mean the Super Pershing is basically a medium, so. And then on Sacred Valley from either side in standard mode, I would go at least start up here. The WZ-111 is a really strong tank, so you can bully even a lot of their heavy tanks there, depending on what positions they end up in. You can beat a lot of them to that spot as well. You know, the FCM is going to be faster than you. T10's about the same speed, but the M103 Conqueror are both going to be slower. So what you ideally want to do is you want to get up to this area right here if you can, but usually you want to, especially when there's no artillery, you want to start a little bit more conservative, maybe back over here or down in this ditch when there's no artillery. Because you can basically use this as a hull down and use that distance basically to shoot them. But you want to establish some sort of position on this north here. You send about half of your team to the south, which is usually pretty bad. The teams usually stagnate down there. Again, it's an entertaining place to fight in there, but whichever team wins then has to drive across a big open area in order to get to the next area, which is not super awesome. They revamped this inside over here, so you do have to be aware of what's coming in through there. I don't like pushing in through here in the current map because it's too easy to get flanked through there. And then you just want to let this guy push in. Right, let him push into your team. And then see how they're coming in on your side. That's why I don't like coming through this side specifically. Like it's always a stronger play to play through there because it doesn't necessitate that you actually win that area. And see how your buddy pushed in through there? That's completely unnecessary. If they're not shooting at you, you don't want to poke out into 3 guns like that. And that position that he's in right now is not a very solid position either, as you might have noticed by his quick death. And then again, you don't want to stay in your position. You guys actually have the numbers where you can push that BC line, and you'd probably be better off doing that than coming in through here. There's lower tier tanks here, but really it's not about the lower tier tanks. It's about trying to clear off this flank to free up some of your guys. So you can still push that Conqueror over there. You've got so much of your team tied up over there that you want to actually make something of it. This is pushing into a flank like this is not usually a good thing. Because basically as you push in here, see how you're pushing yourself into an encapsulation? It's almost always bad. I still think you could have done this exact same thing except on the other side against the Conqueror. Helped free up your team and still taking out a higher value tank. And taking less damage in the process. And whenever you fight against lower tier tanks like that, you want to keep your frontal armor a little bit more towards them. You don't want to go outside, otherwise even tier 7s will be able to pen you. Luckily your Tiger P was able to beat that guy. You definitely don't want to go out with your side like that. And you do have some flanking pressure, right? But you got to keep an eye on what that T10. That's the... Oh my god. You've given them way too much side, but okay. Well, they did get the SCM, that's good. And then you just gotta go back to your base. I would actually tell one of your teammates to go cap, and then everyone else goes and defends, but that would be ideal. But you just gotta go back, though. And then you actually kind of want to take this inside ground if you can, because you don't want you want the Ferdinand to actually drive up towards the cap, right? And then you want to be able. Oh, I guess these guys are coming down through there, so that's fine. And you can take your time here, and you should still try to move forward a little bit. Use these houses, right? There's no indirect fire, so you're not worried about that. And to do that, you would basically just drive up this road right here, about 20 meters. Because that's going to give you a different set of shots than what your team has. Because right now, you're going to sort of overexpose yourself to that Ferdinand. Yeah. Don't do it! Don't do it! No, no! You gotta lower glaciers. Just straight in. And I'd like to point out that at this point, if you guys sent one person to cap, you would win the game. But... and then just push forward if he's gonna sit back. And then get all the way... No, 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 no. Keep going. You'd never want to shoot at the front like that. Ah! If he's going to sit that far back and make it so that he doesn't have an angle to shoot you, just drive across there so that you can close the gap. Lol. Okay, so this game was lost early. When both of you guys pushed into this area right here, you took way too much inconsequential damage to deal essentially none in return. And that's sort of a problem of coming through here if you don't control this area. And again, I've really felt like you could have won out here more easily. I find that a lot of times what people do when they play tanks is that they go, oh, I can beat that guy over there, so I'm going to go over there. What you really should be doing is you should be looking and asking yourself, what does the team need me to do? And right, they had a single conqueror up here that was holding back basically 3 of your guys, 3 of your lower tier guys. And all you had to do was clear that guy out. That would have helped free up your guys without them taking too much damage. And then you could have either flanked through there or come back through here. These guys in the middle, they weren't going anywhere. They weren't pushing you. They weren't pushing south. They weren't running away, right? They were just kind of hanging out there. And so I've really felt like if you could have taken that guy out and then gone through there, that would have been much better for you in terms of the trading. Because you took a lot of damage from tier 7 tanks, right? And in your tier 9 heavy, you want to avoid taking damage from tier 7 tanks. If you're gonna engage, then you need to just straight bully. And then at the end there, really what you should have done is just send one guy to cap and then everybody else back to reset, especially if they're going to be slow to that. And then close the gap on that Ferdinand. If he's going to back off, you need to get close to him. You guys should have been able to 3v1 a Ferdinand from any amount of health, but you guys played that pretty much as poorly as it could be played. There's not a whole lot of coordination between pubs, and I understand that part of it, but you have to think. You can't think about sniping at tank destroyers from any tank, especially if you're in a one-shot tank, because they're going to have a little bit of an advantage there. What you want to do is you want to get wide on them, right? Get flanking fire, 90-degree angles, but you guys were all right in front of them, so all he had to do was sit there and go, okay, how about you guys come at me one at a time? And you guys said, all right, we'll do that, right? And that's not good. But I think it was the bad position early cost you too much health for nothing. You gain nothing from that, and so I think that was probably the biggest problem there. And then, again, it's a lot of the game is target selection, and not just of, oh, what can I shoot with my gun, and collect some damage on, but it's how can I help my team? How can I free up my team to help me? Yeah, not bad though. Getting ammo racked certainly did not help. GG, nice try. Alright, so the next one will be Welinso on Arctic region in his M103. Another no Arty game, man. A lot of no Arty games tonight. Alrighty, pretty similar comps. So you can go either way here. I know a lot of heavies like to play down here. I don't find this to be particularly exhilarating gameplay. I think that you can send a bunch of monkeys down here and they just push buttons and, one side will win. I like, especially when there's no artillery, you can actually play through this ditch here in an M103, but you can also play through here. I find that to be decent, depending on the mediums that you're up against, because you can bully a lot of them. But you decided to go south, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And then it depends on how you play this, and how you play this depends on what tanks that you are up against. You're not really going to get any shots anywhere else on the map. That's part of the problem being in the south area, is that when you're in the south, the only thing that you've got is in the south. Please don't stop behind this rock. And then you've got the T10 down low. You actually want to anchor up high a little bit because you want to make sure, you want to see what else is coming down here. And you want to prevent them from all coming on this line. If they're all going to sit down there, that's to your advantage. All you got to do is sit up top, and then you can shoot down at them. You need to keep these guys back, though. You don't want those guys thinking that it's okay for them to move forward. And right now they're not, so you can push through here. As long as there's nobody back up there, you can push through there and put some pressure on these guys. Right, you guys should be bullying right now. Like, I would worry a lot less about these guys right here than these guys that are down here. Right? You can even just drive up right here, use this rock to block you from these guys. Like, shooting those guys really isn't helping out your team that much. Like, if you're just driving up here and shooting down these guys, right? See how these guys are shooting that? You'll be hulled down to them. You'll be protected from those guys over there. It's like right now you're wasting too many cycles doing nothing. You can still do that to this Conqueror. Just drive up over on this side of this hill right here, and you can shoot down at those guys. Of course, if he's going to drive down here, then you can shoot him. But like, as a top tier tank, and especially as a top tier heavy, you don't want to spend a lot of your time playing the decoy. You want to spend as much time as you can being the hammer. It's not, look at me, I'm an annoyance. No, you're a heavy tank. You should be smashing things. See how their guys are starting to come over now? That's going to create problems for your guys. It's just too much time. 3 minutes in, you've gotten 4 shots of damage. There you go! That's what I'm talking about! Unfortunately, most of your team down there is now dead. You can still do this exact same thing to that IS-3. Exact same thing to that IS-3. Too much decoy. You can literally just drive up right here. And like literally just go up right here. Either that or just shoot the Conqueror. Like one of the two. Like, what I don't like about delaying in when I'm playing my heavy tanks, I don't like delaying because I know that the more that I delay, the more that I'm being dependent upon the rest of my team who's going to be in lighter tanks than me, right? I'm depending on them to be the ones to front. I'm depending on them to be the ones to be the hammer. And you really need to be the hammer here. Especially since you're going to start getting flanked soon. Unfortunately, you just lost too much down here now. So, well, we'll talk about it after. But basically, one of the things that you need to work on is playing in the terrain that you're in, because basically you've grooved yourself. Like you've drawn like you've worn out the ground in a little patch here, but you've done very little repositioning to actually get yourself better shots. And that's one of the things that you need to practice in any tank, but to a large extent in heavy tanks, because there's a lot of micro positioning that you can do to give yourself better opportunities. Because now they're just flanking you. Like, this is not a good shot, but you should just turn around and shoot the other guy. Lol. What's funny is that you can still win this as long as you keep everything in front of you. Like, you could even come back around through this side over, well, maybe not that side over there, because that might be a little bit difficult to get away from the Conqueror there. But I wouldn't worry about the Luva, because he can't really shoot you. You can potentially kill, especially now that the Conqueror just fired, you could kill the Conqueror. It's just you need to get yourself in a position where you're ready to shoot something, whatever something might be. Like these shots are not like super awesome shots here. And what's unfortunate is that you've still got the majority of your top tier tanks still alive. Like these are not good shots. You're better off trying to figure out a way to kill the Conqueror so you can shoot down at these guys from above. Especially since Luva is no longer there. Because you're losing your base still. This is like the world's slowest match. Nobody wants to win this match. I think they're behind you. Okay, so again, the biggest problem that you had here was that they put a lot of their guys down on this lower road, and you didn't establish any presence in this middle area here at all, right? They basically got to do whatever they wanted, and they weren't punished at all for it. That Luva was able to move forward, that Conqueror was able to move forward. What else do they have up here? They had an IS-3 up there as well that was able to do whatever you want. So coming down here is fine. It's not that big of a deal. But a lot of what you need to do is work on that positioning over here, and then identify where you can get shots, right? There, guys, you know, and I say this, I feel like I say this in every replay review. You want to damage their team where they're hurting you, right? If they've got guys that are AFK, if they've got guys that are camping in the back, a lot of times those aren't the guys that are hurting your team. You could have put a hurt on these guys down here, sort of like what you did on that T-49 eventually, by using that rock to put you between you and the Conqueror and the Luva, and just sit up there, hold down, hammering those guys, just straight hammering these guys the entire time, right? And you could have done that from that position and been completely safe. You would have been, that rock would have been between you and them, and you would have been hauled down to any of these guys down here. So they would have had a choice. They could either back up all the way around back behind that corner. They could stay there and get killed, or they could push forward, right? But you could have facilitated that. And there was just far too many reload cycles where you were just kind of hanging out up here. Right, and I never like doing that when I'm in a top tier heavy. Whenever I'm in a top tier heavy, I'm always looking to set the tone. Unless you're vastly outnumbered or vastly outpositioned, like that's something that you should have been able to hammer without a thought. Especially since most of these guys down low were lower tier, you know that the Conqueror is up top. But that Conqueror was pretty timid. He stayed pretty far back. But you didn't really do anything. I mean, even when he moved up over here, he didn't really do anything, but you didn't either. You allowed him to freeze you out, basically, and you didn't really need to be frozen out there. You could have been a little bit more active. And I think that was the biggest problem that you had there. It wasn't even some of the shots that you had. I mean, I wouldn't have taken those shots on those heavies at the end. I would have tried to figure out how to kill that Conqueror, and then you could shoot down at those guys from above, which would have been a far easier situation for them, because it's not like they can hide behind the corpse if you're shooting at them from above, right? And this was always a time-limited offer because your team was losing on that other side as well, so you needed to be able to figure out how to make something out of this over here. And so a lot of times you'll see that if you're, you know, even if you were the only tank over here, right, and you're fighting against 5 different tanks, right? So you've got a 1v5 over here, and they've got a whatever that's left, a 14v10 over here, right? If you see that you're losing that 14v10, you have to do something over here, right? Either start coming back. You have to do something. You can't just do nothing. And the odds weren't nearly that bad in terms of what it was stacked against you, but you played that just way too timidly for what you needed to do as a top tier heavy. And your top tiers in general played that pretty passively, like I said. You know, even at the end of the game, it was most of your top tiers that were still alive. Right, and they were just floating about. There's just a little bit too much floating and not enough hammering. Whenever you're top tier, it's got to be about the bully. Anytime you see an opportunity to bully, you can't pass it up. Alright, so if we look at stats, you did not get a whole lot out of your team, unfortunately. But that'll happen when your top tiers play quite that passively. Like that T-54E1 was sitting on the back of that the little mountain back here. That didn't help you because he wasn't like he could have pushed up and dealt damage to that Conqueror, for example. The STI that was down low didn't do a whole lot, but I don't think that he was really comfortable with playing. So that'll happen, and that T-10 was in the same boat. Not too bad. I mean, you need to pen a little bit more. Most of those shots were against tier 8 tanks, so you'd want a little bit more of those to pen, but a lot of those were kind of hope shots that you don't really need to take a lot of times. If that's the only shot that you have is on the turret hatch of a 112 or whatever it was, then sure, then take it. But you should always be if that's what you're relegated to, if you're like, oh, I'm trying to snipe this guy's hatch, you should think, is there something else that I could possibly be doing instead? But GG, nice try. It's one of those things, and again, I'll go back to what I was saying earlier. It's just, it takes a little practice and a little experimentation to play in those areas and get shots, right? Use the rock to protect you from one lane of fire while you shoot down a different lane of fire, and that could have been achieved by simply moving 5 meters in one direction or the other. And so micro positioning ends up being really important in terms of covering yourself. Like if you I won't do it right now because I'm going to make the replay review out of this, but if you guys remember in earlier tonight when we were playing, I was in the E75, I think. Yeah, it was the E75 on Tundra. I was pushing after their Cairn, who was moving to flank us, and all that I did is they had a 50B on the other side, and all that I did was put a rock between myself and the 50B, and when I was attacking the Cairn, and that way I know that he can't shoot me in the rear. So a lot of times you can use micro positioning in order to achieve your goals, and so you want to try to do that when you can. Alright, and then we'll look at robots BatChat game because why not? Yeah, maybe it was a Centurion. It was one of them British slow tanks. Alright, roughly similar comps. I like playing through the middle from the north, at least going up here initially to get shots. If they push their mediums through there, you can get shots through the little crack there and hurt them pretty badly. You can also keep them permalit so that if anyone is in the base, they can actually get shots through there. And then that also gives you the option to then come around on this side, which then allows you to shoot over on this 8 line. So I actually think from the north, the center is actually a pretty nifty place to play because you can play it pretty defensively. From the south, I almost never go middle just because it's just far too open. It's too easy to get owned if they know how to play the north properly. Otherwise, you can also go up here. If I were to play this line, I would not push up too far on the 2 line, but you can push up to a point where you basically spot down here, because what you want to see is if any of their fast tanks try to move across, and then you could just basically get your free shot of damage and then fall back. If they try to push forward, you get your free shot of damage and you fall back. The nice thing about the BatChat is that you're frequently the fastest tank on the map, so you will beat everybody to their spots. Some light tanks can tie you. There aren't really any light tanks that can beat you. And you want to be wary about pushing too far forward here, because it's really easy to get ISO'd here. Because what can happen, like let's say they just push both of the Russian medians up through here, right? You don't really have a whole lot of places to go. Leaving out through the area that you came through exposes you to a lot of fire. Going down into this lake, right, exposes you to a lot of fire. So getting ISO'd out here is not really good. And so the question is always, what do you gain from moving to this position, especially if you already own the Abbey, short of this T-54 lightweight driving in behind these guys and starting to shoot them. You'll get shots on him, but that's really the only thing you're going to get shots on. But really, you've got more than enough to deal with the T-54 lightweight there. So you need to be more concerned about your own positioning here. Like, this is a little bit of an overreach depending on what their team does. Like, if you spotted both of their 140s over here, right, then you would think, okay, well, maybe this place is okay. Or 430s. But yeah, you're just not going to get anything good right now. You don't have a whole lot of support here. Most of your well, I guess you don't really have armor, but most of your tanks are not on this side. And so, like, the advantage of the BatChat is really you want to either find an ISO or catch somebody off guard where you can get a few quick shots and then bail. The BatChat is not good for camping. The BatChat is not really good for sniping. You just don't have the alpha or the gun control to trade with people like that. The strength is really in that quick strike and run away. And see how they're 140-430s on the other side? You can push forward here, get shots, clip out that KV-4. And then you don't want to stay on. So this is a mistake that I see people make all the time. Like, these guys, for whatever reason, think that they're safe. But if I'm in an artillery, I can hit you here. Like, what you want to do, you just want to push across to this side right here. And that makes you safe from a number of sources. One, that makes you safe from, since you control the Abbey, you don't need to worry about getting shot from the Abbey. But that makes you safe from anybody over on that side, including artillery. This Patton can't poke out and shoot you. Right, there's they can't poke out around this corner down there to shoot you. The only thing that can shoot you is the KV-4 if you move across here, right? And so you always want to create those situations, and I try to point this out when I do it in the stream, where I have to think about what am I concerned about getting shot by here. I'm willing to accept that I'm going to get shot by the KV-4 in order to kill him. Like, that's okay to me, but in that acknowledgement, I want to make sure that he's the only one that can shoot me, right? And so if you push forward a little bit, you'll end up in a much better place. You clip that guy out, and then you can fall back. That works as well. And then you could get 2 shots on the Patton here if you wanted, and then run back. You might as well get that shot. Get that shot. Oh, just if he's gonna shoot, right? You might as well, and he already damaged you. You might as well get that shot in on him. All right, and then this is the thing. Whenever you're in a tank like the BatChat with the long reload, is that you want to get that clip out, bang, 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 as fast as you possibly can, and as efficiently as you possibly can, so that you can start your reload. And then once you start your reload on a tank like this, or on a tank like the 1390, or even on a tank like the 50B, you already want to start going. Where do I go, right? Okay, you're not really going to have a whole lot of success pushing over here, right? You always have to think about it in terms of time, right? These guys are engaged with these guys over here, more or less. They're not tightly engaged, but they're engaged. You're not really going to be able to help them for the next 40 seconds anyways. So what you want to do is you want to start shifting back this way, right? Because you don't know if you're going to win over here. It seems unlikely that you're going to win over there. So you might have to go and help them. So you already need to start thinking about how to keep these guys alive. If these guys engage here, you're not going to be able to help them for such a long time that this engagement is probably going to be resolved about the same time that you actually get loaded. So you actually want to start thinking about how to save these guys over here or these guys in the base. Like even this T-54 over here, inconsequential to your team right now. Well, at least they did kill the Bulldog. Oh man, T-54 lightweight. And then what you don't want to do is you don't want to sit back here. You actually want to push up here. While these guys are still alive, you want to push up as quickly as you can. The T-32 is going to go down, and then it's just a matter of how long they spend on that T-61. See how these guys are shifting across? So that's even more impetus for you to get over there ASAP. Well, that T-32 lasts a lot longer than he probably should have. And then the nice thing about this is that you can actually now push around on this side if you wanted, but I would still come around over here. Let him get his shot. Because you need to be worried about artillery. Okay, he decided to shoot. And then get the 140 down. Just push the 140 as aggressively as you can. You're not really worried about the 140, you're worried about artillery. And just turn around and leave. That 430 you can completely ignore. Don't even try to snipe him. Just ignore him. And then now what you're thinking is, okay, can I get back over here? Are those guys going to be slow enough over there? So just go ahead and start reloading, right? Because by the time you get reloaded, by the time you get over there, you're going to be reloaded. And you need to be wary because this T-54 could potentially come through that middle there. Unfortunately, it looks like your guys are engaging that 430 on the island, which is not super great, but what are you going to do? Yeah, not entirely sure what you're thinking is here. Like, they're not probably going to be super enthused about pushing your team right now. Like, where you're losing is over there by these guys over there. So as long as their team is winning over there, why don't they just wait it out? And that was an unnecessary amount of damage that you took there as well, but that will happen. And so this is actually a dangerous place to push through. Because you know that they have a JPE out here. And their waffle now had enough time to clean up. And you almost just got JPE'd. So if you came around through that side, I don't know that you would have been over there in time to save them anyway. So at this point now, you might as well go and see if you can kill that 430 to free up your guys. And the best way to do it would be to drive up through here. And you might, again, whenever you're taking these long treks, go ahead and reload. Like there's no reason why you shouldn't already be reloaded. And I don't know where you're going now. It's important to always have a plan. And if your plan is, oh, you know what, I'm gonna go engage this waffle from close range, like that's not a good plan. If your plan is, I'm gonna engage both of these guys at the same time, that's not a good plan. Your plan should involve, how can I keep these guys from getting themselves killed? Whether that's by asking them to come back or whatever. You know, that's a plan. Well, that was good. And then just reload and run away. And then now it actually just goes straight down the middle. Because they're going to put some flanking pressure on that JPE, so you want to get to a position where you can actually shoot him. I think you're going too far back. Well, especially since their waffle's out in the open too. All you have to do is just drive straight through the middle and get shots on those guys while they're lit. I mean, I think you've done mostly a good job here. You're just... It's about an economy of movement, because your team, whenever you play in pubs, your team is not going to live forever, and so you want to be as efficient as you can in your moving about, so that you can get there before they die, ideally. Sometimes they still die a little bit too fast, but so this is dangerous because you don't know exactly where the waffle is. And so getting up underneath them would be a good idea if you still had artillery, but you don't. But they're both facing the other way, so that's good for you. And you know that the 430 is on the other side. So you can come over here, and then if you come over here, I would actually deal with a waffle first. Or even better, the arty. So the JPE will be turning around. The waffle might be turning around. We'll see. Doesn't look like it. Spot the JPE. Spot the JPE. You need to know which way the JPE is facing. Because if you wait too long, then he's definitely going to turn around. Yeah, don't go out too far here. Yeah, and don't rush your shot. You can shoot through that bush. Yeah, and then you do not want to try to trade with him. Like, you didn't need to drive out nearly that far to get shots on that guy. Well, and I have no idea what you're doing now. You do not want to try to trade frontally with a JPE. You could have just... Like, I don't even know why you stopped there. You could have just kept going around there. He's going to roll down that hill. He's pretty much boned. And he wouldn't have been able to shoot you, so you would have had a lot more health to deal with the waffle. You didn't need to even shoot the JPE. Whenever you're in a medium tank, especially when there's no indirect fire, whenever you're in a medium tank like this, fighting against a JPE, I would rather dance around the JPE, literally kill every single tank around him, and then kill the JPE. Because you can neutralize him entirely with your speed. You don't need to shoot him. You don't need to do anything. You can just literally drive in circles around him while you're shooting the waffle or any other tank. It's a little close. And then now all you gotta do is proxy spot him. Just go over to this ledge and proxy spot him and see which way he's facing, and then go the other way. See, what you don't want to do is you don't want to give him distance. You don't want to give him enough room where he can get far enough away where you have to come across a distance to get him. See, and you just drive down there. All you have to do is figure out where he was at, which way he's looking, and then just drive down and around. He's shooting the other guy. You've only got 2 shots, so you got to make it count. Let's see if you can make it count. You know how you can make it count? By driving around to his side, because he's not doing anything. And so it's moments like that, like that, those 2 shots where you're sitting there going, okay, I got 2. He's shooting the other guy. You've only got 2 shots, so you got to make it count. Let's see if you can make it count. You know how you can make it count? By driving around to his side, because he's not doing anything. And so it's moments like that, like that, those 2 shots where you're sitting there going, okay, I got 2 shots, but he's only got 1 shot of damage before I kill him. So those things, that first shot is fine. You can be like, okay, well, I'll just take the first shot and find out. If it pans, we got a nice roll or something. Okay, great, killed him. If that first shot bounces, you're obligated to make that next shot count, right? That next shot has to count. So you need to just drive your ass over there and shoot him in the side or the back. Like, luckily that Type 59 is going to bail you out, but he shouldn't have needed to. And you indirectly killed your own T-54 by not being able to kill this JPE. Oh, it would be even more rich if he killed you. He's like, I don't need that. See, and the thing is, you can still lose this game because if the 430 was actually playing, he could just come around behind you and shoot you, and there wouldn't be anything that you could do about it. And then there's no need at all to reload now. And your gun should definitely be facing this way. Like, I don't know. I see this a lot with people on cap. their guns are facing in the silliest directions possible. Like your gun is facing up towards this Abbey right now. Do you have any reason to believe that the 430 is going to be in the Abbey? If you know that his last position is over here, he's probably either going to come through over there, or he's going to try to snipe you from over there, or he's going to come through this alley over here. He's not going to come from that side. But like when I play, when I come back to cap a lot of times, like I see people like facing their guns, like they'll be have their gun face back towards this red line. I'm like, what the hell are you looking at back there? And so you always have to think about that, because if this guy was playing, again, you're one shot. He's got a better gun control than you. So you need to have your gun facing in a position where you can actually counter him. No. Okay, so a number of things. Like, I thought coming over here was fine. Again, I think it's a little bit of an overcommit, but luckily they sent a bunch of their weight up that 8 line, so that was fine. Again, look to utilize the clip of the BatChat. If you're going to acknowledge that you're going to take a hit from the KV4 or whatever in order to clip them out, then that's fine. Just go and do it. Make sure that you're safe from everyone else. And I thought you did a good job mostly of reloading while you're on the move. In the first part of that, I think you had pretty good efficiency. So basically that whenever you get to wherever you're going, you're going to be reloaded. And then a little bit later, you kind of were driving around a little bit too much, and I'm not entirely sure what your plan was. Whenever you're in doubt of what your plan should be, when you're like, oh man, I don't know if I should push this area or I should push this area. When in doubt, go to wherever your team is just to be in that area to try to keep them alive, right? And then you could make a better decision based upon that. You don't want to sort of hang out in the middle and just kind of be like, okay, it looks like they're dying over there, so now I'm going to head over there, sort of thing. And then, again, for that 430, you don't really need to, you can ignore him entirely. And then the biggest problem was that, and a lot of this is experience, is that, when you're doing that dance with tank destroyers, particularly slow ones like JPE, and the Waffle is relatively slow. It has a good gun, but it's relatively slow. And you've got mediums there attacking them from different angles. It's all about doing 1-2s. If they're looking at that Type 59 that's down here, you should be getting shots from this position over here. When they turn to shoot at you, he can shoot at them. Or he should shoot at them. That's the beauty of being at 90-degree angles, flanking angles, or 180-degree angles on tanks, because you can get shots, especially on these slow non-turreted tank destroyers. There's no reason at all for you to stop in front of a JPE ever. Well, maybe there's a very slight reason why you might want to, but almost never. You should never stop in front of a JPE. You could have literally just kept driving around there. He would have driven his face down into the dirt over here like he did. But you basically gave him an opportunity to shoot you, which puts you down a lot of health. And then, again, it's always to your advantage. When you're fighting against slow, non-turreted tank destroyers, it's always to your advantage to be as close as you possibly can, especially if you're in a really fast tank like the BatChat. All you had to do was identify which way that guy was facing. As soon as you saw that he was facing to this northeast here, all you had to do was drive down there. It wasn't even going to be close. He wasn't going to be able to turn fast enough to shoot you. The tank's just not that fast. Get around to his side, finish him off, and then you can go back and cap or deal with the 430. And then also, when you're on the cap like that, right, and you know that the JPE is pinned over there by your Type 59, your gun needs to be facing this way, right? So even when that JPE was still alive, you should have still been thinking about the 430, not the JPE, because the JPE, one, you were reloading, so you couldn't do anything about it anyways, and two, he wasn't really in a position to shoot you unless you drove out into the open for him to do so. So your thoughts should have been more about that 430. So don't stare at something that you can't really do anything about. You stare at something that can actually hurt you. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So if we look at stats, not too horrible. I kind of feel like you got bailed out by their mediums in this game because their their medium play was so poor, but a win is a win, and you did pretty well. Except against that JPE, you did pretty well. So, GG, well played. I'm glad you won at least.